the other one. I think you should have everything in front of you before you make a decision.
John, yeah, we did serve on that, and I have to agree with what Mike Rapko said about a workshop on a Saturday. The visual effect it's not coming over. Here's my voice, sorry. I kind of like the idea, I think it's a great idea, Mr. Rapko came up with it, and it should have been broached a lot sooner, to actually see the architectural drawings with furniture superimposed in it so that we can see how it lays out. And I will say this for the record, that bond was to consolidate services between school department and the town. Somehow it's gone haywire. I want to go back to 2000 when I served on a building and planning committee. I stepped off that committee because there was an architect firm called Kessel and Booz that did not properly address Kendall Dean. They said they missed the brick fascia on the front of the building, and the way they had proposed it, it's public record, I think anybody can find the minutes of those meetings. And in order to make up for it, they proposed doing away with the gymnasium, a basketball court. I said, absolutely not. This is how this bond was sold to the people. We have to have those things. I was an advocate to go after errors and omissions. I got zero traction. The record will show my frustration. I was a quitter. I stepped off. I said, no one's going to follow and go after errors and omissions. Bring this bond, bring this proposal to fruition. I can't be wasting my time. More importantly, I can't be getting worried or sick over it. So, yeah, Mike Cliff, if we have a history of not doing things correctly, you're absolutely right.
You can avoid it this time, Paul. We're going to have to move forward. So you see all the numbers.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
James Zwolenski?
I'd like to pass it this one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on then. Moving on. We're going to make a little, we're going to change an order or something. We're going to move to 9D, abatements. Discussion by council vote or other action on abatements. I guess Mr. DeJesus, DeJesus is not here today.
Recess was here.
Okay.
Sarah Fruit was here.
So we find it. I know that.
Oh, sorry, it's something else you said.
So we take, yeah.
Is this for the, are you handling the abatements, correct?
Yes.
Okay, is this the one with 487.81 and 325?
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Bottomoli? Yes. Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Zwolenski?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad?
Yes.
Mr. President, while Sarah's here, do you mind if we move something up on the agenda?
Chris, do you have something else?
Sort of, kind of, it has to do with the registration of
Yeah,
vehicles.
Dave.
Chief Reynolds is here too. So we
On my notes, I'm ready to move them up.
Oh, good, thanks.
I'm going to move to 8B. 8B. Discussion by council vote or other action on motor vehicle registrations. Ms. O'Hara and Mr. Zwolenski.
Yeah, I briefly spoke with the chief. Chief Reynolds, do you mind coming up? Coming out of our executive session, Chief is going to bring us up to speed on the police side of it, and maybe Sarah can bring us up on the tax side of it.
transition recently from Officer Avila, who has a new assignment as SRO in the schools. So Officer Steve Conti has assumed his responsibility with the out-of-state registrations. So he's presently looking into, I think it was like around 20 violations cited people who are in town. And he's looking at the dispositions of those cases now. So he'll have that in his report in November. This past month, we have received no complaints, either in Sarah's office or the police department.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Receiving no complaints, and Chief, I know you're not at liberty, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows that there's ongoing continuation of finding, scaffolders, people that pay their taxes. Is that a correct word? Yeah, so I appreciate what the department's doing, Chief.
That's correct. Officer Conti is working with management of a number of apartment buildings in the town.
Good, because the
Working
count is
closely
still
with
very
them.
high.
Pardon me?
The counts of out-of-state cars are still very high.
Yeah, I'm sure your offices are
But I
on.
know there's a procedure that you have to go about.
Anybody have anything?
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to number 5. Zoning ordinance amendment, section 18, promotion of stonewall preservation. This is a continuation of the public hearing. And this is the second reading.
Mr. President, I am the sponsor of this, Mr. President, serving on the ad hoc zoning review committee. We've had years of dialogue on this. We've come around full circle. I just want to make sure that folks, the intent of this ordinance is not to prohibit or deprive the citizens of their property rights. It's an attempt to try to retain that historical and cultural character that stone walls bring to this town. It is very involved from a perspective of historic. And it's been built prior to 1939. It's not considered a historic wall due to the aerial photographs that were taken by the state of Rhode Island. That's how they identified them. I'm a firm believer that stone walls certainly continue culture and historic significance to this town, our town. Take a look around neighboring communities that are now more cities than suburbs. They've lost their history. Our neighbors to Smithfield have a similar, this is kind of modeled after their ordinance, in which they have higher fines for violation. Let everybody rest assured that if you want to make a change to your wall, it goes before the planning board. If it's reasonable, a certain amount of wall cuts that will allow you ingress and egress through a driveway. It's not prohibiting anyone from developing their property. I mean, we've had testimony previous, this came before us years ago. We had an individual get up and said, well, suppose I want to subdivide my property and we have walls. So, see, people didn't understand this, that this person could not subdivide their property because they were in an RA 120 zone and that was it. That was the amount of property that they did have. So there's a lot of misconception, but we have experts here today. Well, I can't call anybody an expert. The state of Rhode Island has a problem recognizing experts. But I would defer to some of the folks that have worked their way through this. If you don't mind speaking about the cultural, historical, and value added to people's property that a historical wall means. So if someone cares to speak, whether it be any of you three gentlemen sitting up front, it'd be nice to hear from you.
Larry Smith, 170 Douglas Pike. And excuse me, we were here last week, and I just keep this very short. The stone walls, as we said, very historic in town. They're all made differently. They're different purposes. Some are spiritual, architectural, border lines. But I hope everyone recognizes resources are irreplaceable. Once they're gone, they can't be replaced. Part of the landscape and the heritage of North Smithfield are the stone walls and the way they were made. 5 towns, Portsmouth, 2 2004, passed the ordinance. Middletown, 1998. Tiverton, 2005. New Shore, I don't know the date, and Smithfield. There's 4 other towns, excuse me, recently going for the ordinance: Lincoln, Gloucester, Forster, Situate, West Greenwich. And I just hope that we can pass it and preserve our walls. Thank you.
And, thank you, Mr. For council members, I'm sure you've read the packet. It's the second time we've received it. But we also have letters of support from the North Smithfield Heritage Association. Attached is a petition that they have people's signatures supporting this. We also have a letter of support from John Reesma, who's the executive director of the John H. J.P. Blackstone River Valley National Heritage Garden Commission. Just have to say this, I still remember it. Mr. Reisner, as most of you will remember, he was the director of DEM, he's now the director of Blackstone River Valley. The Blackstone River Valley National Heritage Garden Commission is in total support. The Historic District, we have a letter here from Mr. Jeffrey Harris in support of the Stonewall Ordinance. There's some facts, figures included in this. I urge council members to please support this. Once the walls are gone, there ain't no coming back. So I said that on purpose. So
This is a public hearing. Did anybody want to be heard on this matter from the public?
Good evening, Paul Silver, Salesville Road, on behalf of the Ordinance Committee. I spoke at the first hearing, so I won't belabor the issue and go over everything, but I just want to reiterate a couple of points. Earlier this year, the Town Council approved the request from the Ordinance Committee to present a Stonewall Ordinance, as you may recall. And we did that. It's before you now. It is modeled at the Smithfields, almost word for word. It went to the Planning Board. The Planning Board voted unanimously that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan in that it protects historic and cultural structures. Mr. Zwolenski just mentioned some letters that I was going to tell you. You have support from the Conservation Commission. The Stonewall Ordinance has support from the Conservation Commission, Historic District Commission, the Heritage Association, and the Blackstone Valley Corridor Commission. I think they're important cultural assets. Again, the comp plan says we should protect historical structures. And on behalf of the Ordinance Committee, I urge you to pass this ordinance into law. Thank you.
For regulations. Anyone else have any questions? I just have one right there. I'm all for this. I'm just hung up on this one section, 18.4 penalties. Any person violating any provision of this ordinance shall be subject to an initial fine of $100. I don't have a problem with that. But then if the violation is not cured or corrected within 60 days of the issuance of a citation, a $100 a day fine will be imposed. That's pretty severe. For moving some rocks in your backyard.
It is.
Mr. President, they're more than rocks.
No, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, $100 a day.
Well, you know what, if you have a violation of your swimming pool, your site, and you have, I can't quote the number, I won't call on somebody in the audience that knows it. Excuse me. You have to pay that fine, and you have a certain amount of time to correct the issue, or you're fined again. I believe it's an escalating scale. 60 days to repair something to a wall is a lot of time. That gives more than enough adequate time.
Well, what if you take the wall down? How are you going to repair it?
That's why they
So you find $100 a day for
yeah,
forever?
But can I tell you, historic practices at municipal court was never to enforce the full amount of the fine. We have an ongoing zoning ordinance process. It's been going on for decades. And you'll find that the municipal court is very understanding of these things, almost to a fault. Almost to a fault. But $100 per day, I've never seen a fine that's been enforced per day for every violation. There's violations that are out there. So I don't believe that that'll be enforced to the letter of the law.
I just have to say one thing. I'm not in favor of a Stonewall ordinance. I've never been. I think that you know, if people buy a house with a stone wall and it's historical, they're buying it because it's there and they want to take care of it. And, you know, other people that might, developers that might buy a piece of land and there's a stone wall in the way, that might be a problem. It looks to me like it's almost there to make sure that it goes against any builder who wants to put something, because, oh my God, and we can use that for a reason why they can't build because of the stone wall thing. And like I say, if you like your stone wall, keep it. If you don't like your stone wall, it's up to you. I don't want someone telling me what to do with my stone wall and being fined. I mean, who the heck are we to start fining people for their stone walls? It's not up to us to worry about a stone wall. The stone walls were put years ago for a reason, because the people wanted to do it. And that's why they're there. So, I mean, to just get up there and say, we want a stone wall ordinance, oh my God, it's beautiful. Yeah, it is beautiful, and if you own it and you recognize it, you keep it. If it doesn't work for you, remove it. If a developer comes in and there's a bunch of stone walls all over the place, I sure in hell don't want to say, oh, sorry, this is a stone wall. Now we have to make this crazy development around these stone walls. So I'm like, you know, common sense. You know, I'm all set with the stone wall ordinance. I'm totally against it. Like for the last 10 years that it's been trying to come through.
Counselor, some of these stone walls are just not agrarian stone walls that were built by colonials to delineate their property, to pen their animals. Some of these stone walls were built by the original inhabitants of this great country of ours. They have significant and religious value to them. There's much deeper than just the stone. You know, we've been on Grange Road, we take it for granted. You're right, they're beautiful. I drive down Grange Road, I go, this is gorgeous. Not everybody sees it that way. If there were a developer that was going to come in and the area that they had proposed for development had stone walls, the planning board will work with them to try to retain as much of those stone walls as possible, especially they're old. They were built before 1939, because after 1939, let's face it, people in New England, farming, if it weren't already cleared out, kind of dissipated. New England was not the best place to be a farmer. It was more conducive to be in a textile using hydropower. But then again, that leads itself into, there's so much culture and history here. I think that if we don't do something to promote it, to retain it, it'll be lost forever. I think it's just a huge historical piece. Again, it is not prohibiting any developer from developing a property.
Wasn't going to speak on this. Carl Johnson, the alternate zoning official for the town. It's really nothing to do with the stone wall per se. It's the violations. I'm just, for those of you who don't know, I'm actually in the middle of reformatting the zoning ordinance. Not changing any wording, just reformatting so it's a better read, better way to look at it. And I'm finding a lot of ordinances that you're looking to pass tonight that kind of contradict themselves. In the zoning ordinance for violations, it's clearly stated in there that any violation of this ordinance shall be subject to a fine up to $500 a day, and each day would be considered a separate and different zoning violation. So if you're putting violation language saying $100 for the first offense and then $100 a day if it's not fixed after the 60 days, I think it's kind of, you're kind of conflicting your zoning ordinance between the two violations. The same thing is a little bit off the track. We have several different sections of definitions in the zoning ordinance. So you have 2 or 3, up to 4 different definitions of structure, but they're in different sections of the zoning ordinance. So I think we're adding a lot more language into the zoning ordinance than we really need to add. And like Councilman Zwolenski said, being the municipal court, the judge does know that up to a $500 a day fine. Each day is separate and different offense. So I would just suggest maybe looking at editing that out of the ordinance. Thank you.
Yeah, but it's not 500, it's 100.
But what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
but there's already a violation in the ordinance saying that any violation of this zoning ordinance
Yeah.
is,
Yeah, we actually have the North Smithfield Heritage Association refers to that. This is, I don't want to use the term punitive, because I want to use the term rewarding for keeping the wall. But if someone so blatantly does not go before the planning board and has a development and tears down a 1,000-year-old wall that was put in by the natives here, that's a travesty. So I'm looking at this, this is again from the North Smithfield Heritage Association. The proposed ordinance is very similar to the one adopted by the town of Smithfield several years ago, except Smithfield penalty is $500 for a violation. This ordinance is not promoting or asking for $500. I understand in our town zoning it says it's a $500.
up to $500. So
Yeah,
that, I mean, it could still be $100. I think we're just adding a little bit too much more language into the zoning ordinance.
Maybe,
Yeah.
but I also want everybody to be aware of the planning boards and the zoning boards that we don't always think that we're going to remember the Rhode Island general law.
Oh, no, but it's stated in our ordinance that the violation is.
Yeah.
So, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Well, I'm Mary Callahan Savini, and I've been here any number of times. And I would just like to suggest to you that oftentimes when a zoning violation does occur, even though you've brought it to the attention of the zoning official, and